The Earth is home to many creatures and animals, and whilst many aren't unusual, there are some that remain shrouded in mystery. These monsters are the focus of science fiction and many legends, hiding in more unexplored corners of the globe. Rare sightings and blurred photographs may have sparked the search, but these monsters can't hide out of sight forever. The Kraken. Scandinavian folklore warns sailors about the Kraken, telling them to be wary of this danger of a giant squid. Although the physical representation of the Kraken varies from source to source, it's often depicted as a huge sea monster resembling a squid or an octopus, often with spikes on its suckers. Legend says this colossal beast swipes at anything that passes with its tentacles. Although our comic books, films, and novels claim they can sweep away entire cities, this massive creature is said to dwell in the North Sea, living in the waters surrounding Norway where its initial sighting was. Tales of the Kraken originated in 1180, where the alleged sighting of a giant squid was reported to the King of Norway, who then wrote the first ever report of the Kraken in a manuscript of circa. Whilst the king's initial manuscript described the Kraken as a sea monster that was nothing more than a huge squid, the tales and rumors grew, and the legend begun to circulate. The tale of the Kraken evolved from a big squid or octopus-like creature into a huge, man-eating, fearsome beast. In April 2016, however, we got much closer to unraveling the mystery of this elusive monster. Google Earth saw a mysterious, blurred glow by Deception Island near Antarctica, and some are suggesting this odd shape is the Kraken itself, resurfacing for another brief interval. Many remain skeptical as to what was truly within this Google Earth photo. Alternative answers range from the once thought to be extinct prehistoric plesiosaur to an underwater aquatic UFO. With the other possibilities being equally as unbelievable, it really is plausible the Kraken was captured on Google Earth. Further arguments made by people to debunk this Google sighting is the sheer distance between the origin of the Kraken in Norway to the coordinates of Google Earth by Deception Island. The staggering 14,890 kilometers means the Kraken will have traveled across the globe. Could this monster have traveled that far? Or is there more than one? While simply claiming this creature is big or huge is an ambiguous term, guesses and estimates of potential sizes are so varied that big is the most definitive answer we have. The Scandinavian and Nordic folklore suggest a monster that's at least 100 feet long, describing a beast that can easily be mistaken for an island. On the other hand, estimations drawn from the Google Earth imaging using the Google suggest this creature's head to end could be 100 feet, but could easily span more than 200 feet when you take into account the length of its tentacles. Some people dismiss any mythological and legendary elements and claim the Kraken doesn't eat sailors, doesn't destroy passing ships, and is generally just a plain old giant squid, a very real and very hidden creature. Giant squids reside in the twilight zone of the ocean. Between 1,000 and 2,000 feet down, the information we know of these animals have been sourced largely from squids that have passed away and washed up onto shores or caught in the nets of fishermen. Living in such depths of the ocean can be said to provide an explanation as to the rare sightings of the alleged Kraken. Stories and tales of the Kraken can be found in pop culture, and the fear of the unknown beast may be conjured through our writing and tales, more than the threat of the supposed monster itself. While we can see something living in our seas on Google Earth, we're yet to be certain what it is living alongside us. The Nin-yen can be traced to Japanese folklore, with the name being the Japanese translation of human. The sea monster is rumored to be a creature resembling a human, fish, and a mermaid. At an alleged 20 to 30 meters long, the Nin-yen is said to be the size of a whale. This is according to the sailors aboard the Japanese research vessel. The physical descriptions of the monster remain relatively consistent. Pale white in color, a human-like figure with a torso appendages, but then a tail resembling that of a mermaid. A peculiar feature of the Nin-yen is the description of its facial features, or rather, the features it appears to be missing. The minimal features of a Nin-yen appear to be a narrow slit for a mouth and two large eyes, but no nose or other apparent or distinctive features are in its face. Some people have theorized this odd description is one matching to an albino ray. Maybe what sailors excitedly concluded was a sea monster, in reality was a species of albino ray that has not yet been discovered. However, the vivid pictures painted by those who have encountered the Niñen firsthand are notably different from the knowledge we have of albino rays. This led to many quickly dismissing this far more ordinary explanation. The Niñen was first spotted off the coast of Antarctica, in cold, icy waters. This led many to believe this creature has been living in the Arctic beneath the ice. In the Arctic, scientists have discovered hydrothermal vents, where life such as the Yeti crab have been found, leading to the plausible possibility of a new life form there too, possibly including the Niñen. Adding to the suspicious nature of the bizarre creature, this sea monster is reported to have been seen more often at night than during the day. The sailors who first reported seeing it initially thought they saw a submarine, though upon closer inspection it became clear they were looking at a living, breathing creature. As with many creatures we aren't quite sure are real, only questionable video footage and blurred photos are available, with no concrete evidence of this sea creature existing at all. However, some believe the sailors who first saw it had captured clear photographs, but they were destroyed by the Japanese government in order to reduce the unwanted attention this would bring. This, of course, has nothing more than speculation. A Japanese publication covering the paranormal has released Google Earth images claiming they showed a Niñen, but again the credibility of these images is unconfirmed. Rumors are currently circulating, suggesting there's some reports of the monsters being acted upon seriously and sincerely by the Japanese government. Their efforts to minimize the knowledge of the creature are to avoid it being used for the rare chemical compound some people think it may produce. This is yet again another unevidenced theory. It supposedly produces a rare chemical compound with either medicinal value or that's venomous and could therefore be weaponized. Some even claim there are people threatening those who have seen or have evidence of the Niñen, though this is all unconfirmed and is purely speculation. To explore and hunt for the creature would require a substantial amount of funding for an expedition, an incredibly large expense considering we may not be fortunate enough to see it at all. Could it simply be a hoax? Or could this mythical creature really be lurking within the sea? Nessie. The Loch Ness Monster is by no means a secret, but the majority of sightings since we first heard of Nessie in 1933 have turned out to be incorrect, a hoax, or dismissed. Some photos and sightings over the year have seemed credible enough for many to believe there's an underwater reptile at Loch Ness in Scotland. The most definitive, however, just might be the images found on Google Earth of this creature hiding in plain sight. Google Earth captured what is believed could be Nessie, where the monster appears to be healthy and well, swimming in the Highland Loch. Avid fans of Nessie and monster hunters have reported concern. This is due to a diminishing number of yearly sightings. This led to many believing that climate change could have a debilitating effect on Nessie's health. If the Loch Ness undergoes a dramatic environmental shift and can no longer support life, we may have to wave farewell to this mysterious creature forever, never having confirmed the truth. In efforts to confirm Nessie's existence, researchers have used advanced sonar technology and even underwater cameras, but are yet to confirm her existence. Some believe that Nessie is simply an eel, or in 2016 when a 9-meter prop from the 1970s movie was discovered in Loch Ness. Some suggest this was the disappointing reality behind Nessie. While some claim there's nothing unusual at Loch Ness, and some are dedicated believers, the hunt for Nessie is decades long, and certainly hasn't been half-hearted. From blurred photos to tourist and Google Earth's pictures, evidence suggests there just might be something there. From the most famous to the most unheard of, new creatures and species are being discovered constantly by scientists. Unearthing what we have long considered to be monsters, could this be the next scientific breakthrough? Are the legends and myths that surround us actually a hidden reality? With advancing technology, it can't be long before we find the true answers. So what do you make of these alleged sea monsters caught on Google Earth? Everybody knows that the birth of a child is an amazing thing, a new life brought into the world and can experience everything life has to offer. Before that can happen, a woman carries the child for 9 months during pregnancy. 91-year-old finds out she's been pregnant for 60 years. The first of today's stories starts in the quaint coastal town of La Boca located in Chile. Estela Melendez and her husband Manuel were married for 74 years at the time of Manuel's death. 74 years of marriage is an impressive feat in itself. However, this story starts on a more somber note. Unfortunately, in 2015, Estela woke up one morning like any other day. To her dismay, her husband Manuel lay unresponsive in their bed and was later declared deceased. Absolutely devastated, Estela was preparing for dramatic change in her life. Now living without her husband of 74 years, however, her life was about to change in ways she could never imagine. Whilst mourning her husband, Estela began reflecting upon the life in which they shared together and began to dwell on the regrets she had. And one especially stood out from the rest. Estela yearned for children, but unfortunately, they could never conceive a child together. Estela's case had actually baffled doctors because they couldn't see any reason that she couldn't have children. She should have been able to. After the loss of her husband, Estela began to retreat into a much quieter life, mostly keeping to herself. And unfortunately, she ended up losing her hearing and then later nearly losing all mobility due to severe arthritis. To make matters worse, Estela then had an accident roughly a year after Manuel's passing. Now this is when Estela's life had a dramatic change, which she couldn't imagine. Estela tripped and fell over whilst going about her day-to-day life. Luckily, she was able to reach a phone for help and contacted a friend to take her the near 40-mile trip to the closest hospital. Once at the hospital, doctors immediately carried out x-rays and instead of injuries from her fall, something else caught the doctor's attention. Now Estela had previously been diagnosed with a tumor around her uterine area. But upon another examination, it turns out it wasn't a tumor after all. Tragically, it was in fact an incredibly rare case of lithopedion, which in layman's terms is known as stone baby. Incredibly rare with only around 300 cases recorded worldwide, lithopedion is a condition in which the fetus grows outside the uterus. Estela's story is different to most still though. As is commonplace with this condition, the fetus is simply absorbed by the mother's body. After time, this was not the case with Estela. In an even rarer case, the fetus had solidified into hardened calcium carbonate. Due to Estela's age, 91 at the time, doctors refused to perform any kind of surgery to remove the fetus and Estela simply returned home. But again, it was not that simple. Estela found her home engulfed in a horde of reporters and TV crews, all wanting the scoop on her remarkable story. Estela would go on to tell her story and engage with a global audience on the biggest news shows in the world. But even after that, she simply returned to life as it had been before her trip to the hospital. Reja Devi, the world's oldest new mother. In November 2008 in Alawa, a remote village located in northern India, what's been described as a biological miracle occurred. A baby was born with a difference to the normality we are used to. The mother of this child was 70 years old at the time of birth. Reja Devi Lohan is the proud mother of this newborn named Naveen. Rejo Devi is known around the globe as the world's oldest first-time mother. Rejo Devi had been endlessly hoping for most of her adult life for a child and was overjoyed when she finally managed to conceive and give birth through IVF at the age of 70. Rejo Devi Lohan, along with her husband Baburam, tried to have children for many years before deciding, along with Rejo Devi Lohan's sister, to instead focus on building a life and a home for themselves. Quickly became the talk of the local village and were labeled the people who couldn't have children. In Alawa, where Rejo Devi and Baba Ram lived, things were very different to what people in places like Delhi were living like at the time, despite being only around 100 miles away. In Alawa, the community abides by a traditional order centered around religious festivals, harvests, and hierarchies. Rejo Devi and Baba Ram would share shirts and an old television amongst their few possessions. Neither of them could read or write. Not much was spoken about in modern advances in fertility treatments and general pregnancy science. This was until through a neighbor in their village, they found out about a 60-year-old woman that had managed to have not only one child, but twins through IVF treatment. This procedure was carried out as a nearby hospital around 20 miles away from where Raju Devi and Baburam lived. Intrigued and excited, Rajat Devi and Baburam went to visit the family they heard about to try and find out more about their miracle baby. After talking with the family and finding out the simple process, they were sold and were going to try it for themselves. They did exactly that. After selling 2 buffaloes, mortgaging their crops, and taking out a government loan, they ventured the small 20-mile trip to a doctor that was willing to carry out the IVF procedure on Rajat Devi. In India, there is no law regulating IVF treatment, meaning if the doctor is willing to do it, then this treatment can be carried out at no matter what age. And that is exactly how Rajadui had her baby. The IVF treatment was carried out with a donor egg and then implanted into Rajadui's womb. She would then continue to work for the first month of her pregnancy, experiencing little to no discomfort. After a relatively uneventful pregnancy and just 8 weeks to go, an ultrasound scan flagged up something very concerning. Rajat Devi was at risk of losing the child. After losing 3 liters of blood and a month in hospital, Rajat Devi finally gave birth by cesarean. Despite the baby only weighing a light 3 pounds and 5 ounces, the baby and mother were safe and well. The Great Stork Derby, held between 1926 to 1936 in Toronto, Canada. The Great Stork Derby was a competition in which women competed to see who could give birth to the most babies in a 10-year period. At this point, you might be wondering why on earth were there women in Canada competing to see who could give birth to the most babies for 10 years? Well, it was actually for something a bit unusual. The Wheel of Charles Miller is what prompted this bizarre competition. Charles was a very wealthy financier and lawyer, and when he died in 1926, his will stated that a large proportion of his wealth and estate would be given to the woman that managed to give birth to the most babies in the 10 years following his death. And so the baby boom began. Not surprisingly, during his life, Charles was known by those close to him as a prankster and loved nothing more than playing a practical joke on someone. Upon his death, not only did he leave this competition, he left his holiday home in Jamaica to 3 lawyers that were known to hate each other on the specific condition that they had to live there together. A frantic race ensued for the women that could give birth to the most babies, and over the 10-year period of the competition, newspapers and media began following it closely. Something Charles did not foresee was the Great Depression, and that his estate would become a beacon of hope for many families around Toronto that needed it. On Halloween 1936, the competition ended and Judge William Edward Middleton, a sympathetic man to the now very large families, ended up deciding on a draw between 4 different women. Annie Catherine Smith, Kathleen Ellen Nagel, Lucy Alice Timleck, and Isabel Mary McLean were the winners, all giving birth to 9 children, and they were awarded around $2 million adjusted for inflation. This enabled the mother to pay for education for the children and help them live better lives. But what do you make of these interesting stories involving pregnancy? It's just been announced that the FBI is currently investigating strange claims made by pilots. 2 pilots have come forward in detail to seeing a humanoid and a jetpack, and that they were flying near Los Angeles International Airport. The airline pilot said the humanoid was around 3,000 feet in the air, and that whatever it was flying incredibly fast. Several U.S. media outlets have managed to get their hands on the alleged recordings of the pilots. During the conversation, one of the pilots said the following: Tower American 1 to 997, we just passed a guy on a jetpack. To which the controller on the ground responds with the following: America 1 to 997, okay, were they off to your left side or your right side? The pilot replies saying the individual was on the left side, around 300 yards or so, but sticking with their altitude. A few seconds later, another pilot reports the following to the tower: we just saw the guy pass us on a jetpack. The controller then tells the pilot to use caution when flying in the area, and also puts out a warning stating there's someone flying around on a jetpack. Someone in the background can then be heard saying only in Los Angeles. This report is certainly interesting. People using jetpacks is something you don't see every day. And this is because they don't really work. Various companies have managed to build what they call jetpacks, but they don't really travel that fast or high. So this story has got people asking what the pilots saw. Interestingly, this isn't the first time that pilots have reported seeing flying humanoids. Back in 2014, news broke that pilots on a passenger plane were left confused when they witnessed a flying humanoid going past them at 3,500 feet. They couldn't wrap their heads around how, number one, a human was able to zip past them so quick, and secondly, where they come from. Aviation experts then admitted that they were too baffled by the reported sighting of a flying humanoid. After making the news, the flying humanoid was then given the name of Superman of Macclesfield. The mysterious individual suddenly appeared out of nowhere and was able to overtake the Airbus 320. This was while the plane was flying close to Cheshire Town in England. The pilot and the first officer reported the strange sighting to air traffic control, where at first they thought the individual may have been a paraglider. However, they couldn't see any gear on the humanoid and so ruled this out. Things got even more confusing when air traffic control reported they hadn't picked anything up on radar. It was as if the mysterious individual appeared and then suddenly vanished. Teams on the ground were sure that the individual that was seen must have been a paraglider. However, further checks were carried out to see if any paragliders or people using parachutes were in the area, and it turns out that no one was in the area during the strange encounter. Officials at the UK Airbox Board, who investigate near misses in British airspace, came forward and said they think this is one of those cases that will likely never be solved. The report states the following. They first sighted the object a few hundred meters in the 11 o'clock position, 200 to 300 feet above. It passed down the left-hand side of the aircraft at 100 to 200 meters. The crew only saw it fleetingly. There was no time to take avoiding action, and that they reported that they based their assumptions on it being a person under a canopy. But at the time, the skies were clear and the pilots had visibility of around 6 miles. Though none of them remember seeing a canopy, it wasn't long before experts at the British Hand Gliding and Paragliding Association got involved, and even they said that at the time of the report and due to weather conditions, it would have been impossible for a single glider to be in the area and traveling at the speeds they were. Pilots have been reporting mysterious objects in the sky for years, and it only seems that in the last few years these accounts have been taken seriously. It was reported that 3 separate pilots were left asking questions when they encountered mysterious lights in the sky. The incident occurred on Friday, the 9th of November 2018. This was when a British Airways pilot contacted Shannon Air Traffic Control. The first thing the pilot wanted to know was if there was any military planes or exercises in the area. The reason being because she could see objects that were moving around really fast, and it didn't look like any normal activity that's seen in the area. Air traffic control said there were no exercises taking place, and that whatever was there shouldn't be. It was then reported that 2 other pilots contacted ground control saying they could see multiple objects traveling at high speeds. Air traffic control once again reported there was no military exercises, and that there's nothing showing on either primary or secondary radar. The pilot said the following, "Okay, but it was moving so fast. We saw a bright light and then it just disappeared at a very high speed." The pilot said they were not on a collision route with the object, but just wondered what it was. Air traffic control then reported that a third pilot said they were happy they weren't the only ones who saw it. It was reported that the UFO was moving at incredible speeds, around Mach 2. This is 2,500 kilometers per hour and is twice the speed of sound. UFO sightings are reported all the time around the world, but many stand out more than others. Some cases have evidence that it's so unique and puzzling that scientists cannot explain it. Every year, thousands of people witness UFOs from the ground. Amateur researchers have said that although it's exciting when someone witnesses or captures an unidentified flying object, the majority of them can be explained. They usually turn out to be things such as planes, weather balloons, natural phenomena, flares, or military activities. However, a small percentage of them do remain unexplained. One interesting place where these unidentified flying objects are captured is from plane windows. These are usually much harder to explain, as the photograph or video is usually clearer from this viewpoint. This has led to people recording their plane ride in the hopes of capturing something unexplained. Although some of these reports do get explained, there's still a large majority that remain unexplained to this day, with even pilots getting confused about what they witnessed. It's especially interesting when individuals like pilots report seeing unidentified flying objects, as these are the people that are trained to know every object in the sky. So when they report something even they can't explain, many theorists say it should be taken seriously and investigated. Although the topic of UFOs is still frowned upon by some, others have said if these unidentified flying objects were nothing more than natural phenomena, then why has the government spent the last 50 years looking into this subject? It's this and recent announcements from the US government that's caused some to think there's substance to these sightings, and that soon we may be told some massive news that will change our outlook on the UFO phenomena. So what do you guys make of these interesting stories involving flying humanoids? And what do you think these pilots are seeing? The mysteries of the universe are endless. Referred to as our final frontier into discovery, space has always contained extraordinary and mind-blowing mysteries since we first pointed our telescopes to the sky. This wonder and amazement has only grown as our technology has developed, allowing us to travel to these destinations we never believed possible. Instead of granting us answers to our questions, it has only led to grander theories and even more puzzling mysteries to surface. The universe is expanding faster than we thought. Whilst we may not be able to feel, see, or really understand it, the universe is constantly expanding. This, however, is not in the normal sense of the word. We are located within our galaxy, the Milky Way. However, the galaxies outside of ours are moving away from us, and the galaxies that are the farthest away are moving away from us faster. If you were to be in a different galaxy, for example, this would be the same. Galaxies outside of that galaxy would be moving away from it, even our own. They are not moving in the conventional sense of the word because they're moving with space rather than passing through. Whilst difficult to understand, the universe itself has no center and everything within it is actually moving away from everything else. A famous analogy coined to explain this expansion is thinking of the universe as a loaf of raisin bread dough. As it is cooked, it rises and expands, and as a result, the raisins move away from one another, but they are still inside the bread. At this point, you might be asking, why isn't Earth moving away from everything else then? This is because on a local scale, such as around us, gravity keeps everything together and holds it in place. This was first discovered in 1925 by Edwin Hubble, the man the famous Hubble telescope is named after, and he proved that there was a direct relationship between the speeds of this is now known as Hubble's law. The number, meaning the rate of cosmic expansion in relation to speeds of galaxies and their distance from Earth, is known as the Hubble constant. In the last couple of years, even up to this year, new evidence is suggesting that the universe is expanding much faster than initially first thought. The universe is outpacing all our expectations in its expansion. And that is very puzzling, says lead study author Adam Rees, an astronomer at Johns Hopkins University who co-won the 2011 Nobel Prize in Physics for helping discover dark energy. This new evidence suggests that measurements of the Hubble constant mentioned earlier using cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the early universe and the Big Bang, is actually conflicting with estimates of younger stars and even the Milky Way. This discrepancy is still apparent even after taking into account dark energy and other cosmic forces that are thought to be speeding up the universe's expansion. This has and is still disputed by other scientists and cosmologists as incorrect or incomplete data. However, fresh research from the Hubble as new as 2019 suggests this gap is actually larger than ever. It is estimated that the universe as we know it is expanding up to 9% faster than we originally thought when examining the trajectory of the universe's expansion from the Big Bang. What does this mean? Well, the discrepancy between the rate we believe the universe is expanding now and what we believed it should be from the trajectory created from the Big Bang means that scientists could be missing an essential factor in the cosmological model when measuring that would account for this discrepancy. For now, at least, what's missing is a mystery. But with all the fascinating discoveries we've talked about today, it would be no surprise if in a couple of years from now we were discussing a new strongest material or new type of formation on a distant planet. Or even a new theory of the universe we just don't know. One thing is for sure though, as we try and figure out this wacky, wonderful universe, is that it certainly won't be boring. TON 618 black hole. Black holes are massive objects that, according to our most recent knowledge, exist in almost all the galaxies in the universe. However, there are some black holes that are so huge that it is impossible for us to wrap our heads around them. One such black hole is known as TON 618. It is situated near the North Galactic Pole in constellation Canes Venatici. TON 618 itself is a distant and very luminous quasar. It has been termed as a hyperluminous, broad absorption line, radioloud quasar. This extremely luminous quasar was first discovered in 1957 during a survey of the faint blue stars that don't lie near the plane of the Milky Way galaxy. Scientists have estimated the size of this black hole to be equal to 66 billion suns. This makes it the most massive black hole ever found. The light originating from the quasar TON 618 that surrounds the ultramassive black hole is estimated to be 10.4 billion years old. The galaxy that surrounds the quasar is not visible from Earth simply because the quasar itself outshines the galaxy. The quasar is estimated to be shining as brightly as 140 trillion suns. This makes it one of the brightest objects in the observable universe. Scientists have estimated the radius of the event horizon of the black hole to be approximately 194 billion kilometers. Event horizon can be described as the boundary beyond which nothing can escape, including light, which gives a black hole its distinctive black color. Researchers are baffled by the tremendous size of the black hole. One of the theories about the origins of this black hole is that it is a direct collapse black hole. Instead of being formed by a dying star supernova, this black hole was formed by a supermassive gas cloud collapsing under its own gravity. This is such a powerful process that it is capable of taking all the stars within the gas cloud with it, resulting in the consumption of thousands of distinct sources of mass and eventually the formation of a supermassive black hole. The mysterious radio signals from the M82 galaxy. For 10 years now, astronomers have been picking up mysterious radio signals from the M82 galaxy. Located about 12 million light-years away, the Messier 82 is a starburst galaxy located in the Ursa Major constellation. This galaxy is 5 times more luminous than our Milky Way galaxy, and its center is 100 times more luminous than our galaxy's center. Receiving a radio signal from such a distant galaxy is quite mind-blowing. It opens up all kinds of possibilities. Researchers do not know anything about the object that is making these signals. The first signal from the M82 galaxy was received by the Parkes radio telescope in Australia. Up until now, more than 20 signals have been discovered. As you would expect, this is one of the hottest topics in astronomy today. Some scientists have given the theory that these signals are coming from the high-energy pulsars that are being consumed by a black hole in the M82 galaxy. Another theory points towards the possibility of massive cosmic explosions, and then there is always a possibility, as per our own understanding, that an alien race might just be trying to contact us. The discovery of these mysterious radio signals from the M82 galaxy has given scientists a new hope about the possibility of an alien civilization. At the same time, it has also opened up a whole new mystery to be solved by researchers. Will we be able to see this mystery unfold during our lifetime? Only time will tell. Starless exoplanets may orbit black holes. Exoplanets are, put simply, just planets that don't orbit our sun. Recent studies have found, though, that some exoplanets, rather than orbit a star, are orbiting supermassive black holes. This is also thought to be quite common across the universe, as evidence suggests that at the center of a galaxy, the supermassive black hole can pull planets into its orbit. What's more is that it doesn't stop there, that these planets can also be formed around these black holes. Whilst it's true that black holes are never ending in the pursuit to consume everything around it, they can also form a ring around themselves. These rings are made of various gases and dust, but form anywhere up to 30 light-years away from the supermassive black hole itself. It is theorized that planets can be formed when a star forms. The cloud of gas and dust from around the star collapses and forms disks. These disks are then pulled together and merged by gravity. As you can probably put together, this new research suggests that the clouds formed around a supermassive black hole can create these disks, and potentially in turn planets. These planets created around the black holes would be around 10 times the mass of the Earth and could be giant ice or rock planets. Also, because these planets would be formed light years away from the black hole, that there wouldn't be any strange happenings on these planets, caused by the extreme gravity from the black hole. The scientists carrying out this research at the University of Kagoshima in Japan also estimate that tens of thousands of these planets could be orbiting the supermassive black holes in the centers of galaxies, and even go as far as to say this could be happening in our own galaxy too. The Japan Earth Grazer 2006. Meteors are the small bodies of matter that enter the Earth's atmosphere and become incandescent due to friction. They travel at very high speeds and appear as streaks of light. While many of the meteors hit the surface of the Earth, some meteors enter the Earth's surface in such a trajectory that is almost parallel to the Earth's surface. Due to their high speed, these meteors bounce back into the upper atmosphere and re-enter space. Such meteors are known as Earth Grazers. One of the most fascinating examples of an Earth Grazer was observed in Japan. On March 29, 2006, the citizens in several cities of Japan witnessed a bright fireball travel across the sky. Scientists in different research facilities in Japan were able to accurately measure the characteristics of the meteor. Scientists determined that the fireball was caused by a meteor that weighed approximately 100 kilograms. It had entered the Earth's atmosphere at a height of 87 kilometers, and then it covered a distance of 1,000 kilometers in only 35 seconds before leaving the Earth's atmosphere. This was only the third Earth Grazer to have been observed and measured accurately by scientists. It was widely photographed and videos observing the Earth Grazer. The event was also widely covered by the mainstream media. It was one of the most rare and fascinating space-related events to have ever been witnessed by a large number of people. Red Square Nebula in April 2007. NASA released images of a massive celestial object located in the constellation Serpens. This red-colored bipolar nebula is located in the same area of the sky as the star MWC 922. Scientists named it Red Square Nebula because of its color and shape. The images of the Red Square Nebula were taken using the Mount Palomar Hale telescope. This massive object is estimated to be located at a distance of 5,000 light-years from Earth. The unique nebula has fascinated scientists because of its symmetrical shape. According to Peter Tuthill, an astrophysicist at Sydney University, Red Square Nebula is one of the most symmetrical celestial objects ever imaged. Researchers are unsure about the exact composition and the origin of Red Square Nebula. However, most of the researchers believe that the massive star MWC 922, located at the center of the nebula, is responsible for its existence. According to Peter Tuthill, many stars that have a low mass, like the Sun in our solar system, get rid of their outer layers in order to produce stunning planetary nebulae. Researchers believe that this dying star is ejecting gas and dust into the surroundings, creating the nebula. It is believed to be a bipolar nebula formed as a result of the material emitting from the opposite sides of the star. The twin brother experiment, definitely seen as one of the strangest findings discovered on that of the International Space Station, are the tests conducted by the National Aeronautics and Space Administration to better understand the effects of long-term space inhabitation that was given the name of the twin brother experiment. The experiment was referred to as the twin brother experiment due to the fact that NASA scientists sent up an astronaut of whom had a twin brother that they could use as a comparison of information compared to the astronaut brother of whom would be spending close to a year in space. After his time up in space, the astronaut went through a battery of tests to show any kind of differences, degradations, or changes in his overall anatomy to help explain the effects of long-term space habitation and prepare for eventual long-term space travel or colonization efforts. After using more than 10 different research teams to conduct experiments on measuring large numbers of metabolites, cytokines, and proteins, the research study found a strange effect that space had on gene expression. The teams found that though 93% of the genome from the brother that was in space returned to normal upon landing back on Earth, there appeared to be changes in more than 7% of his DNA that led to changes in the health of his immune system. Bone formation networks, hypoxia, and hypercapnia. This meant that after the one-year mission, the twin was more than affected by the cosmic radiation in space that led to dramatic changes in his gene expression, as well as manifested illnesses in his life. These changes didn't revert back to normalcy for another 6 months after landing back on Earth, and leads many to believe that it could very well be possible to have permanent genetic damage due to longer exposure to cosmic radiation. regardless of the shielding of the capsules and the effects zero gravity have on the astronauts aboard the ISS. Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall, the largest known structure in the observable universe, is Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall. This unimaginably massive object is a galactic filament comprising of a vast group of galaxies bound by gravity. This massive cluster of galaxies is estimated to be about 10 billion light-years across. Astronomers determined the size of the gigantic structure by mapping the gamma-ray bursts emitted from it. Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall was discovered in November 2013. It exceeds the size of huge LQG by more than 2 times. Astronomers detected 19 GRBs from the structure. The gamma-ray bursts were discovered in the direction of the Hercules and the Corona Borealis constellations. Therefore, the structure was named the Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall. According to John Aquila, one of the astrophysicists behind the discovery of Herc Great Wall, the structure is larger than the theoretical upper limit on how big the universal structures can be. But the discovery of this structure has truly confused scientists about the cosmological principle. John Herkiller believes that there is still a chance that sooner or later astronomers will find a structure even bigger than the Herc Great Wall. Scientists believe the size of the observable universe to be approximately 93 billion light-years. This means that the Herc Great Wall that spreads approximately 10 billion light-years across is about 10% of the observable universe. Another mind-blowing fact about this gigantic structure is that it is located at a distance of more than 10 billion light-years from Earth, and it is believed that it came into existence only 3 to 4 billion years after the Big Bang. Researchers believe that this gigantic structure consists of billions of galaxies. This means that there could be potentially trillions of stars and planets within this gigantic structure. The chemical and biological possibilities that lie within this structure are endless. Exoplanets located in TRAPPIST-1. Discovered within the TRAPPIST-1 system that made headlines from all around the world, TRAPPIST-1d was one of the many exoplanets found orbiting a star very similar in heat and size to our own Sun that led many research scientists to believe that many of the planets orbiting around the Sun to be Earth-like habitable planets and ideal for future colonization of a solar system. The most exciting prospect of this discovery was not only the planets, however, but rather the distance the system is from our own solar system, being only a mere 39.6 light-years away from us, making it an interstellar neighbor with a much easier point of access. In fact, previous efforts in developments of space technologies, such as that of the Orion nuclear-powered spacecraft, could see the journey to the TRAPPIST-1 system met in as little as 1 generation of passengers and accomplished in a short 60 years. This very well means that efforts could be started right now to begin interstellar colonization with current space technologies without any additional stress of developments already being performed. The TRAPPIST-1d planet in orbit around the Sun-like star of the TRAPPIST system also appears to be cooler than that of our own Earth and far richer in composition of precious metals. A rocky surface, a low gravity for easy takeoff, and an atmosphere filled with, however, given the planet's size, mass, and density, it is theorized to have a weak electromagnetic field which would not help to shield colonization efforts from damaging cosmic radiation, similarly seen on our neighboring planet Mars. But even if the planet turns out to be incompatible with future colonization efforts once the passengers arrive at their destination, it can easily be cannibalized for resources to build megastructure bases capable of supporting human life and assist in the efforts of terraforming and colonizing the other neighboring planets nearby. The closest neighbor to the TRAPPIST-1d planet, TRAPPIST-1c, is seen as the best candidate for future human colonization efforts that require next to no additional research developments in the realm of colonization. The short distance of the interstellar neighbor, along with all the raw resources that can be gathered by the neighboring planet, is only the first bullet point as to why TRAPPIST-1c is a prime candidate for colonization. Back in 2016, researchers found that the planet has a temperature that is very similar to Earth with a maximum surface temperature of 140 degrees Fahrenheit, a temperature similarly seen in areas on Earth such as Death Valley. Additionally, TRAPPIST-1c has a gravitational force that is 97% equal to that of Earth's gravitational forces, making it habitable without risk to the health and wellness of colonizers. as well as a mass large enough to support a strong electromagnetic field that can shield colonizers from deadly cosmic radiation. This makes it a prime environment worthy of colonization efforts, as the size, atmosphere, electromagnetic field, and mass of the planet seem to be an almost perfect mirroring of our very own planet. Recent research also believes the planet to have a rich atmosphere of water vapor that could potentially see the planet slightly cooled enough to have surface temperatures similar to that of Earth. Giant GRB ring. In August 2015, a team of American and Hungarian astronomers discovered a ring of galaxies spreading 5.6 billion light-years across. The massive galactic ring was revealed by 9 gamma-ray bursts, and hence it was named Giant GRB ring. The researchers have estimated the distance of the ring to be around 9.1 billion light-years from Earth. GRBs, or giant gamma-ray bursts, are emitted when a dying star runs out of fuel. It eventually implodes, forming a black hole. During this process, huge quantities of energy get blasted in the form of collimated beams. And if Earth happens to align with these beams, the scientists can observe these incredibly luminous signals, which can then be used to determine the distance to the GRB as well as the location of the galaxy hosting it. That the 9 GRBs of the giant GRB ring are associated to each other, as they are all located at approximately a similar distance from Earth. According to scientists, there is a huge probability that these GRBs were emitted by the same structure, and if this is the case, this would be yet another structure that contradicts the current models of the universe. In spite of its supermassive size, the giant GRB ring is not the largest known structure in the observable universe. The 2008 TC3. On October 7, 2008, an asteroid entered the Earth's atmosphere and exploded 37 kilometers above the Nubian Desert in Sudan. Scientists estimated that the asteroid had a diameter of 4.1 meters and weighed more than 80 tons. The asteroid disintegrated as a result of the explosion in the atmosphere, and more than 600 meteorites belonging to this asteroid were recovered by scientists. Many of these meteorites belong to the rare type known as uralites. These uralites contain a number of different minerals, including nanodiamonds. Known as the TC3 asteroid, this was the first asteroid whose impact was predicted before entry into the Earth's atmosphere. The asteroid was discovered 19 hours before impact. It was discovered by Richard A. Kowalski, who was working at Catalina Sky Survey, a telescope in Arizona, United States. The meteor exploded 37 kilometers above the Earth's atmosphere. The energy of the explosion was measured to be equal to that of a 0.9 to 2.1 kilotons of TNT. A large fireball was created as a result of the explosion. According to media reports, the light from the explosion was so intense that it lit up the sky just like the full moon. An airliner that was traveling 1,400 kilometers away from the explosion reported seeing a very bright flash of light. After the explosion, scientists started searching for the torn-apart meteorites. 15 meteorites were discovered within the first 3 days of the explosion. After analysis, the researchers concluded that the asteroid TC3 belonged to a class of asteroids known as F-class asteroids. Researchers found amino acids on the collected meteorites, and they concluded that the source of the asteroid was most probably another planet in our own solar system. One of the pieces of the TC3 asteroid was gifted to Richard Kowalski, the scientist who discovered the asteroid before it had entered the Earth's atmosphere. According to scientists, it is not uncommon for asteroids of such a size to hit the surface of the Earth every year. The meteorite that wiped out the dinosaurs. Scientists believe that about 66 million years ago, one of the most catastrophic events in the Earth's entire history took place. Researchers have found abundant geological evidence of an asteroid hitting the surface of the Earth and causing massive destruction. However, the most conclusive evidence was discovered in 1978, when geophysicists working for an oil company discovered a massive impact crater underneath the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The crater is located near the town of Chicxulub, and therefore it has been named the Chicxulub crater. Subsequently, the asteroid that created the crater was also named the Chicxulub asteroid. Over the years, a number of research studies have been conducted to determine the various features of the crater and the asteroid that caused it. It is estimated that the crater is 150 kilometers in diameter and 20 kilometers in depth. The crater goes quite deep into the continental crust. Researchers believe that the Chicxulub asteroid was approximately 10 kilometers in diameter. As this massive asteroid hit the surface of the Earth, it caused a massive explosion, resulting in Earth's atmosphere being polluted by a huge amount of debris. This severely altered the Earth's climate and caused the extinction of more than 75% of species that existed on Earth, including dinosaurs. Some evidence has also hinted that a massive tsunami was also triggered as a result of the explosion. Researchers are still trying to get their heads around the climatic conditions immediately after the meteor impact. Further research is being carried out in order to better understand the mix of dust and various gases that engulfed the planet after the impact from the Chicxulub asteroid. Water found on the Moon. Scientists have often attempted to theorize the contents of the Moon, as well as its surface materials, ever since the beginning of the Cold War space age and efforts to retrieve lunar material were made. There was hope that the Moon would prove to be a far more capable life-bearing body, as it is the closest celestial body to our home planet. However, evidence retrieved from the Moon after the original Moon landings proved that estimates could not be more incorrect. This original assumption. Unlike our planet, the Moon is not protected by a magnetic field of any kind and is constantly bombarded by a significant amount of helium-3 as a product of solar wind radiation. It is this constant bombardment that would lead to the lack of any life-bearing developments on the Moon of any kind, including any attempt at finding naturally occurring water on the surface of the Moon. However, recent satellite imaging has provided what the National Aeronautics and Space Administration has referred to as unambiguous data that shows evidence of large reservoirs of water on the surface of the Moon. The satellite evidence, published in the September 25th issue of the journal Science, provided details that residing deep in lunar craters that are permanently shadowed from solar radiation, there are large pockets of ice that could store enough water to allow for the establishment of permanent lunar bases. The existence of these ice craters provides evidence that the water molecules on the Moon are incredibly mobile, allowing them to find their way to the craters and pooling at the bottom. In fact, planetary geologist Carl Peters claimed, if the water molecules are as mobile as we think they are, even a fraction of them, they provide a mechanism for getting water to those permanently shadowed craters. This opens a whole new avenue of lunar research, but we have to understand the physics of it to utilize it. Not only does this discovery have profound implications for lunar research and planetary geology, but it provides enough evidence and support for the establishment of lunar colonization that could see itself in use within the next few decades, as NASA has been working on their Moon to Mars mission that will use our orbital satellite as a launching point for rocketry and further colonization of the Martian surface. The first radio broadcast. Though its influence in history has been astounding, the small broadcasting device we know as the radio has not been around for very long. In fact, its inventor Nikola Tesla did not first conceive of the idea until 1885. Despite the young age of the device, it was made apparent that Mr. Tesla was far ahead of his own time when first coming up with its invention. Be made aware of the electromagnetic spectrum and the ability to tap into its powers and uses. Oddly enough, Tesla wrote extensively in his notes that when he made the first radio capable of receiving and broadcasting his signal, as soon as he turned on the device, he could already hear another person's voice on the other side. He would later go on to claim that the people transmitting him a signal were those of beings living on the surface of Mars, and that they were attempting to make first contact with him. This was only made more eerie as Nikola Tesla wrote that this voice was that of a man calling out his name, saying Tesla 1, 2, 3, over and over again before the signal cut out entirely. Many researchers speculate that this signal could have been nothing more than background radiation misinterpreted, caused by a solar wind of the sun. However, many believe that perhaps something far more creepy could have been going on in the background. No explanation for this strange occurrence has been provided, and still many speculate that perhaps Nikola Tesla made contact with something not quite human. Ranging from extraterrestrials to time travelers, the conspiracy theory community seems hell-bent on trying to discover the root cause of Nikola Tesla's first received broadcasts. Is time travel possible? This question has to be up there with why we are here and is there a God? If time travel is possible, then who on earth wouldn't want to try it out? In theory, we are all traveling in time, just not in the way that you or I would think of it. As humans, we are traveling at 1 second per second, so yes, we are traveling in time. The thing is, we want to travel faster than 1 second per second, and that is what we think of as time travel. There are actually discrepancies between time at altitude and on Earth due to the difference in gravity. An airplane traveling in the air will actually experience time around a second slower than you will standing on Earth. This principle also applies to the way GPS works. According to a leading time travel researcher, William A. Hiscock, a professor of physics at Montana State University, traveling into the future is definitely possible, but there is a big maybe hanging over traveling into the past. The way in which time travel would theoretically work is by using something called the time dilation effect of special relativity. This tells us that a clock appears to tick slower the closer it gets to the speed of light. Hiscock further explains how if you were to board a space rocket and accelerate continuously at 1g, which is the acceleration that would produce a force equal to the gravity at the Earth's surface, you would reach near the speed of light in around a year. If you then continued to accelerate to the speed of light, the time dilation effect of special relativity would come into play and time would slow down on board the ship. With these factors in place, a round trip to the center of our galaxy and back to Earth would take around 40 years in Earth time. However, due to the center of the galaxy being 60,000 light-years away, 60,000 years would have passed on Earth and hence you would have time traveled. This also happens to astronauts if they have a twin sibling. If this were true for somebody who had traveled to space, they'd actually return so slightly younger than their twin. Now, even though all this is actually possible in terms of physics, the engineering practicality of it all is not practical at all, which is why it's unlikely we'll be time traveling anytime soon. In terms of going back in time, things get a little bit more complicated. Wormholes is one of the ways that we could explore the past. However, you can't simply find a wormhole and step through it, which again presents a problem. Stephen Hawking proposed a theory called chronology projection conjecture, which essentially is a sciencey way of saying that nature does not want us to go back in time. In other words, the past does not want to be changed. There's lots of loose ends when it comes to our understanding of space and how we can make our wildest fantasies into things that are a lot more real than a Hollywood blockbuster. Sadly, we aren't quite at that level of understanding yet. But as time goes on, science will only further develop, and we may be closer or further than we think from these answers. Gordon Cooper lived an esteemed life as an aerospace engineer, United States Air Force pilot, and eventual astronaut. Cooper fought in World War II and was so impressive that the United States gave him the opportunity to travel into space. While Cooper was an amazing astronaut who broke records for the fastest journey from the Earth to the Moon and back, and who was also the first astronaut to spend an entire his legacy, is somewhat controversial. Like many other space cadets, Cooper had been a pilot his entire life and was extremely familiar with aerospace science. His credentials as an aerospace engineer and fighter pilot proved that he was a man of science and discipline. So when he wrote his memoir detailing his experience with UFOs, his readers were perplexed. How could this man who has such a firm grip on practical science be so convinced that he has seen signs of alien life? Though some people lost faith in his credibility, Cooper still gained a following of people who agreed that extraterrestrial life not only exists but that it makes its way into the Earth's atmosphere more often than we thought. Cooper's first UFO sighting happened while he was flying over Germany post-World War II. While he and his crew were setting up a landing space for aircrafts atop a dry lake, an uninvited landed about 50 yards from the crew members. Because of its mysterious arrival, the men were conflicted whether they should approach the aircraft or call in for backup. Eventually, they moved towards it while snapping pictures of it. They recall the aircraft being completely silent as it landed and took off again. It had extended its legs when landing and recalled them as it rose back into the sky. Once it was back in the air, they never saw it again. Immediately after, Cooper called his contact at the Pentagon, where he was instructed to send the photos of the mysterious aircraft to the intelligence agency. Cooper looked at the photos himself before sending them in to ensure that they represented exactly what he saw with his own eyes. He reported that the photos were in great condition and that the aircraft was clearly visible. After a long while of waiting for a response from the Pentagon, Cooper grew suspicious that there would be no follow-up and that the Pentagon had ulterior motives cover this up. Even without acknowledging that this aircraft was indeed an extraterrestrial UFO, the Pentagon had plenty of reason to launch an investigation because an unmarked vessel entered a classified and secured military location. After this, Cooper began to write down his experience seeing the UFO in great detail, which eventually played a huge role in his published memoir. Cooper lost a great deal of military and scientific credibility when he as people began to see him as a bit crazy. He was known to publicly taunt and discredit the Pentagon because he believed that they knew more about UFOs than they revealed to the general public, and that the secrets they are harboring would be very detrimental to space exploration and military intelligence. Cryovolcanoes on Ceres in the main asteroid belt that sits between Mars and Jupiter lies Ceres, the largest of the asteroids. Ceres, first discovered in 1801 by Giuseppe Piazzi, was originally classified as a planet. This was until other large objects were discovered in the same neighborhood as Ceres. Astrologists at the time realized they were looking at a new type of object in space, so the term asteroid, meaning star-like, was first coined as a star-like object. Describe these new objects. In the 1860s, it was widely accepted that these large asteroids had major differences to the planets we know, but a specific definition of planet was never formulated. At the 2006 Pluto debate, it was discussed the specific criteria that had to be met in order for an object to be considered a planet. Had it not been for a modification to this criteria stating the planet must have cleared the neighborhood around its orbit, Ceres would today be the fifth planet from the Sun obviously. Due to the asteroid belt it lies within, Ceres is not classified as a planet but a dwarf planet and an asteroid simultaneously. Now, whilst the controversy surrounding Ceres classification is certainly interesting, that's not what we're going to discuss today. Ceres itself is home to something much more fascinating. Since early 2015, NASA's Dawn spacecraft has orbited the icy world of Ceres, examining its surface closely. It wasn't until quite a few months had passed that the Dawn would observe something so fascinating but so bizarre at the same time. It was a 13,000-foot tall mound closely resembling what we know as a volcano. Scientists named it Ahana Mons. In 2016, it was confirmed that Ahana Mons was indeed a volcano but not your average volcano, a cryovolcano. A cryovolcano is, as you can imagine, a volcano, but with a twist. Instead of releasing molten rock or lava, like the volcanoes we have on Earth, a cryovolcano erupts water, methane, or ammonia. The water and other gases released often turn into a solid form once exposed to the low temperature surrounding the volcano. Hence the more colloquial name ice volcanoes. These eruptions are referred to as cryomagma or cryolava. During eruption, they are liquid but are also released as a vapor. Cryovolcanoes are thought to be able to form on moons and asteroids that used to have an abundance of water. The reason Ahana Mons erupts water and other substances rather than magma is simple. The temperatures on Ceres are simply too cold to melt rock, but warm enough that ice can melt. Ahana Mons was only able to be understood more when scientists examined mineral salt, likely the product of a cryovolcanic eruption. Inside the Octa crater found it had origins in a Hunamons, which in turn relates both fascinating natural structures. The Octa crater is 57 miles across and as deep as a Hunamons is high. The large impact that tore the giant Octa crater into the surface of the dwarf planet must have originally started everything and triggered the later cryovolcanic activity, says Andreas Nathus, framing camera lead investigator for Max Planck. After this event, rock around the planet reshuffled and moved up towards the surface. The change in pressure allowed water and dissolved gases to escape that would eventually form a volcano. It's also suggested that many smaller explosions around the dwarf planet caused the cryovolcanism rather than one major event. Cryovolcanism isn't exclusive to Ceres though, as it has been spotted on Enceladus, one of Saturn's moons, Europa, a moon of Jupiter, and Triton, Neptune's largest moon. Cryovolcanoes are a fascinating insight into the wonders of the universe and things we couldn't even imagine being possible. A black hole is essentially a region or place in space where the gravity is so strong that even things like light, radiation, or practically any particles cannot escape it. Black holes are thought to be created when a star dies. Black holes can be a variety of sizes, the biggest being a supermassive black hole. These are actually quite terrifying to think about. They have a mass equal to that of millions of suns. Is astronomical. These supermassive black holes are at the center of large galaxies across the universe. Our own galaxy, in fact, has one at the center that is known as Sagittarius A. Scientists have found that its mass is the same as around 4 million of our own suns. Black holes themselves cannot be seen due to the fact that no light can escape them, however. Scientists can study how the surrounding area and stars, for example, and that indicates the location of a black hole. Late last year, the Max Planck Institute for Extraterrestrial Physics found what is currently thought to be the largest black hole in the nearby universe. When observing the Abell 85 cluster, a cluster of roughly 500 galaxies, and more specifically the galaxy at the very center of the cluster known as HOM 15A, scientists noticed that the center of this galaxy was much more faint than it should normally be considering the sheer mass of stars within the galaxy. This was what indicated the presence of a never-before-seen black hole. After attempting to measure the mass of said black hole, the scientists discovered the estimates were much larger than thought, and in fact, this black hole, now dubbed an ultramassive black hole, has a mass of around 40 billion times that of our sun. That is a staggering number, and there's no real way to comprehend something of that scale. However, it is fascinating nonetheless. You might be wondering how something as massive as this ultramassive black hole could even exist within a galaxy, given the size of our own. Well, HOM 15A is a giant galaxy known as an elliptical galaxy. An elliptical galaxy is formed when a spiral galaxy such as our own, the Milky Way, merges within another spiral galaxy. It goes further though, as this newly formed elliptical galaxy can then merge with another elliptical galaxy, creating an even bigger galaxy. When these galaxies merge together, the black holes in their centers can also merge and, exactly like the galaxies themselves, create an even larger black hole and so on. When these black holes collide and get larger, it can push stars away, forming the darker center. This is how the scientists discovered the HOM 15A black hole. While the HOM 15A black hole is the most massive in the nearby universe, being only 700 million light-years away from us, there is evidence of an even larger black hole located around 10 billion light-years away from Earth in the Tung 618 quasar. This ultramassive black hole is estimated to have the mass of around 66 billion times that of our sun. A Russian cosmonaut and Air Force general claimed to have seen a UFO on a space expedition on May 5, 1981. He is not the first cosmonaut to have seen a UFO. In fact, there are multiple space explorers who have reported seeing UFOs traveling extremely fast through space. So if there are multiple people who travel into space and see UFOs with their very own eyes, how can we cease to hear about it? There is a simple explanation. Nobody believes them. UFOs have been so mystified in Hollywood and in the media that we believe a UFO must be accompanied by a small green alien. And even more, the presence of such UFOs and aliens must entail some kind of abduction. Of course, most of the space explorers don't ever claim to be seeing aliens or even conclude that the UFO is filled with aliens. They simply report seeing an unidentified flying object. Vladimir Kovalyanok's UFO sighting was a bit different. As his spacecraft flew across Africa towards the Indian Ocean, he reported seeing a disc-shaped object surrounded by fog in the shape of a cone. This object was flying near him when suddenly it changed directions, exploded, and then exploded again. Kovalyanok reports seeing two different explosions, one after the other, resulting in two spherical figures of gold and white smoke. The white smoke, he said, seemed to be holding the two objects together. Soon the mysterious flying object he saw disappeared under the Earth's shadow, and he never saw it again. Kovalyanok is adamant that the spacecraft he saw explode and disappear was controlled by intelligent life. Although he didn't report seeing any little green aliens, he stands by the fact that something was controlling the spacecraft he saw. His reports were not completely dismissed in Russia. Kovalyanok was a prestigious cosmonaut who spent 216 days total in space over the course of 3 different space missions. He was an extremely brave and intelligent asset to the Russian Space Force, and his legacy as a space explorer continues today. The Hollow Moon. On November 14, 1969, in an attempt to better understand the makeup of the moon, NASA placed multiple seismic readers across its surface and then soon launched a lunar space module on a collision course for the moon. The idea behind this theory was to allow the lunar module to strike the moon with such a dramatic force that it would send reverberations and specific frequencies throughout the entire and allow the seismic readers to capture this data and help to accurately map out the inside of the moon. What they soon discovered was baffling. Original theories and hypotheses had suggested that these reverberations would not last longer than a minute, given that the surface of our moon is covered in mostly basalt, which would work to absorb these reverberations and, given its extensive presence, was believed to make up the majority of the mantle of the moon at this time. It was mathematically calculated to prevent the seismic activity from lasting for a prolonged period of time. However, as the lunar module struck the moon, the entire celestial body began reverberating for over an hour. NASA scientists describing its reverberations similar to that of a church bell ringing. There is still no reasonable hypothesis for the cause of this today, and no further information can be gathered given NASA's lack of future missions to the moon. The most legitimate theory available at this time comes from the works of Russian researchers Michael Vassin and Alexander Shabakov that had posited the artificial moon theory. They began to notice that the craters of the moon, regardless of the impact size or diameter, all equaled out in depth. They also noted that these craters generally had very shallow and flat interiors and in other areas even containing convex bottoms. They hypothesized that meteors are hitting an armored hull underneath the basaltic surface of the moon, preventing further depths into the celestial body, and believing the moon to be a possible spaceship created by a complex alien life. This theory was only reinforced as the mathematics for the moon and its density became an apparent issue. Given its size, location, and theorized general makeup, the moon should have a density of roughly 5.5 g per cubic centimeter. However, given its orbital path and overall physics, we find the moon to only be 3.3 g per cubic centimeter, causing the moon to be significantly less dense compared to our Earth despite theories of the moon's creation coming from the materials of the Earth. Also soon began becoming connected to the strange, anomalous properties of our moon. The moon is too big to have naturally been caught into the orbit of our planet. For comparison, our moon is 2,159 miles in diameter, whereas the largest Martian moon is merely 14 miles in diameter. This has led to a wide array of debates among the scientific community as to its formation, and even recreations and simulations of impact theory have proven ineffective and mathematically implausible as to the formation of our moon. Strange coincidences have also occurred. Our moon has the perfect diameter at the perfect distance to create a perfect solar eclipse. The odds of this naturally occurring are astronomical and have led to further questions as to the viability of our moon naturally forming. But what do you make of these interesting discoveries? The vast expanses of space have long been announced as the final frontier, and for good reason. The realm beyond our atmosphere has continued to remain elusive as scientists discover more and more strange phenomena lurking in the cosmos. New discoveries are constantly being made as we reach further into that infinite realm, but sometimes these discoveries leave us with more questions than answers. Astronomers ponder odd radio circles in space. Spherical forms are not by any means unusual in astrological imaging. Supernova remnants, planetary nebulae, and star-forming galaxies all produce circular features. However, a novel category of newly discovered cosmic anomalies, dubbed odd radio circles or ORC, has recently emerged as a large and unexplained entity, visible only under radio wavelengths and highly circular, with a distinctive brightened edge. Whilst other spherical forms aren't particularly unusual and are regularly documented, odd radio circles have baffled scientists since their recent discovery, and their origin can only be guessed at. In late 2019, scientists operating an all-sky continuum survey with the Australian Square Kilometre Array Pathfinder telescope noticed 3 unique spherical anomalies in the data. Because these orbs were unlike anything they'd seen before, researchers initially wondered if they were merely glitches. However, the SKA Pathfinder telescope is one of the most highly sensitive radio telescope arrays, and this, coupled with the fact that there were 3 clustered near each other, drastically decreased the likelihood of this being as simple as a glitch in technology. Scientists began sifting through archived images and found a 4th ORC that had been captured in 2013. This was in the galaxy cluster of Bell 2142, as well as 6 other bodies that were much fainter, but were considered candidates for odd radio circles. The 4 documented ORC are approximately 1 arc-minute in size, which corresponds to roughly 3/100ths the size of our moon. They're also only found in high galactic latitudes. They're unique as they're only visible at radio wavelength, and are hauntingly invisible when viewed with X-ray, optical, or infrared telescopes. They're also not all identical. 2 have a galaxy near their center, while the other 2 do not. ORC3 is in a solid disk shape, while the others resemble a ring with a hollow center. But what exactly are these orbs? The short answer is that scientists can merely speculate. They're unable to determine how far away the odd radio circles are, which could provide valuable clues as to their properties. The most prevailing theory is their spherical shock wave remnants from the transient events outside of the galaxy. This could be things such as fast radio bursts, gamma-ray bursts, or neutron star mergers. After analyzing their sizes, scientists agree that if this were the case, the transient events would have had to occur in the far distant past. And existing examples of transient events. Remnants don't appear closely related to these new ORCs, with their edge-brightening properties and occasional lack of central galaxy. What is certain is that odd radio circles are unlike anything that's been observed in space before. This has led some to wonder if the phenomenon could be artificial in origin, even hinting at outside life forms. Regardless of whether it's natural of an occurrence or not, there's no doubt these odd radio circles belong to an entirely new class of astronomical object, leaving scientists searching for their origin. SPT 041847 is the first Milky Way look-alike. A discovery made via a telescope system in Chile in 2020 has challenged the way that astrophysicists understand the formation of galaxies. Lurking in space was a previously undiscovered galaxy that bears striking resemblance to our own Milky Way. The galaxy, dubbed SPT 041847, is approximately 12 billion light-years away from Earth, meaning that we see it as 12 billion years ago. At this point in time, our universe was only 1.4 billion years old, which is a mere 10% of its current age. Scientists were able to capture the young galaxy through a process called gravitational lensing. This uses a nearby galaxy that's almost perfectly aligned with the target galaxy to view the target galaxy in sharp detail. The mass of the foreground galaxy is so high that it bends space-time around it, bending light into a curved path that behaves as a magnifying lens for the galaxy behind it. The new image appears as a near-perfect ring, and a computer model then reconstructs the shape of the galaxy and the motion of its gas. What astrophysicists were astonished to see when the image first appeared was that this galaxy, viewed during a time when the universe was young and unstable, was surprisingly organized and in many respects resembled the highly ordered Milky Way. Although stars were forming rapidly, which isn't unusual as there was an abundance of gas for chemical reactions in the early days of the universe, what was unusual was the presence of a rotating disk and a galactic bulge. This being a compact group of stars at the center of the disk. Previously, scientists estimated that galaxies at this point in the developmental of the universe would be highly reactive and unstable. But such a young galaxy already displaying these characteristics challenges the understanding that we have of how galaxies form. Astrophysicists admit there might be less of a dramatic change than previously imagined. This assessment is by far the most astounding aspect of this discovery. It's the first time that a galactic bulge has been witnessed this early in the entire history of the universe. It's also by far the most distant Milky Way look-alike so far discovered. Although earlier rotating disk galaxies have been found, this is the first one with the characteristic galactic bulge of our own galaxy. Astrophysicists do not expect it to evolve into something resembling our galaxy. Rather, they predict it will become an elliptical galaxy, which lacks the spiraling arms of the Milky Way. Regardless of the future evolutions, the fact remains that this new galaxy will be carefully studied in the coming years, as scientists attempt to gain an understanding of what this new information will mean for the prevailing theories of early galactic formation. An unusual meteorite more valuable than gold may hold the building blocks of life. Scientists who are interested in delving into how the universe came to be have to rely on what they can see through a telescope and what falls to Earth to be analyzed from space. Luckily for researchers, on April 23, 2019, a rare meteorite the size of a washing machine split apart in the atmosphere and landed in pieces throughout Costa Rica. This was in Aguas Zarcas. Meteorites falling to the Earth are not altogether unusual, and scientists have found and cataloged over 60,000 fragments. However, the primordial carbon makeup of the Aguas Zarcas pieces caused meteor researchers from all over the world to rush to Costa Rica for the hopes of securing a fragment for analysis. Carbonaceous chondrite is carefully studied in an attempt to unlock the mystery of how life began from the cosmos. A meteorite with this makeup is a pure remnant of stardust specks ejected from the early solar system and is rich in carbon and organic molecules, including amino acids which are the building blocks for proteins and, by default, life. Researchers are so interested in Aguas Zarcas because of its potential to act as a key in understanding how cosmic reactions could create life with these building blocks. As meteorites before Aguas Zarcas, carbonaceous chondrite fragments from Australia were analyzed and found to have at least 100 amino acids, some of which were non-existent in known life forms. They also had nuclear bases and ribose, which are used to create genetic code material RNA. Although there was no life forms found on the Australian meteorite, the components for life were there. The hope is that Aguas Zarcas, which is around 50 years younger, will have these components as well as possibly proteins that haven't denatured. Researchers had to act fast, though. Aguas Zarcas is composed of mostly clay, which rapidly soaks in microbes from the earth and deteriorates under the rains of Costa Rica. The meteorite can only be used as evidence of possible life-forming reactions if it's collected immediately and remains uncontaminated. An additional aspect making the Aguas Zarcas so valuable is the integral role of the water in its clay-like structure. This water could be responsible for kickstarting these life-forming reactions on Earth. This would be when combined with amino acids and organic molecules that have been observed in its chemical makeup. Researchers are also studying carbonaceous chondrite in an attempt to offer insights into how we might be able to extract water from asteroids in space as a resource beyond Earth. They'll be able to gain valuable insights into the origins of our solar system and hopefully be able to answer that one ever-present question. How did we get here? The vast number of anomalies and uncharted territory in space has the potential to cloak an untold number of mysteries. This includes new life forms and possibly even undiscovered worlds. Despite huge advances in technology, we may never truly understand what lies out there beyond our Milky Way, making space truly the final frontier. So what do you make of these space discoveries? One of the largest predators to have lived on this planet was that of the megalodon. This creature could easily grow to be over 60 feet long and had a bite more powerful than Tyrannosaurus rex. Strangely enough, although sharing a timeline that would have placed this creature on Earth around the same time as our prehistoric ancestors, suddenly and quite rapidly the megalodon went extinct. Although the question as to what caused the extinction of the species has remained a mystery for decades. With other species of sharks from around that time still existing to this day, new research appears to have an explanation as to this strange mystery. Fishermen are perhaps some of the best people to talk to about ocean life. After all, they're the ones that spend the most time on the water. Why is it then that we hear stories about oversized sharks matching the description of the megalodon? It's these stories that cause some to speculate that perhaps these giant sharks are still roaming our ocean. Various photographs have been presented which allegedly show these giant sharks, and one that's often shared in cryptic groups is this one. It allegedly shows two megalodon sharks off the coast of Australia. It's usually followed with a brief description that states a fisherman was using Google Earth and stumbled across these two giant sharks. Those who believe that the creature still exists usually get excited when these types of images appear online, leaving them to think that the king of the ocean may still be alive. However, after further investigation is carried out, there's usually a more logical explanation. This image is genuine, but it turns out that it's actually two whales that were captured via Google Earth. Another large shark that people can still allegedly see today has become known as the black demon shark. This shark is said to live off the coast of Mexico, and every so often the locals, tourists, divers, and fishermen get a glimpse of this giant, causing some to theorize that perhaps the megalodon has somehow managed to survive. Many of these reports and sightings have been made by a number of fishermen across the Mexican coast, and they have claimed to have seen a massive black shark roughly 60 feet in length, and resembling the build of a great white shark, but with that of a dark coloration across its body and a massively sized tail. Given the fact that many of these reports fit the modern-day recreations using megalodon skeletons, as well as their average-sized tail, it's led many to believe that it could be a possible hunting ground for the creature. Additionally, many of the fishermen that have reported this sighting have often been veterans in their field, never having once claimed such sightings in the past, and having more than enough experience with different species of whales throughout the region. One fisherman described fishing in the area and hooking onto a large fish. However, when he brought the fish in, it had been chewed in half. This wasn't unusual because great whites can be found in the area. However, when he looked at the bite marks, they was around 3 times larger than that of a great white. To this day, no one has been able to identify what the black demon shark is. So what's the reason that scientists give as to why the megalodon went extinct? Though many would remark that the size of the megalodon made it an incredible predator that helped to allow the creature to dominate the oceans during its reign, the truth is that the creature's large stature actually proved to be more of a hindrance in nature than an actual benefit. In order to support its massive body weight and muscle growth, the body of the megalodon had a tremendous metabolism that only caused the creature to require massive amounts of food and resources constantly available in its environment in order not to starve. This calorie requirement would have forced the megalodon to eat more than 2,500 pounds of meat a day just to survive, making it next to impossible to not starve if the creature found itself in an area void of a large abundance of natural prey. Given the fact that the diet of this massive shark was made up mostly of turtles and seals, the megalodon would have been forced to be in a constant state of hunting just to meet its daily calorie requirements, even going as far as possibly eating its own young in times of stress, and engaging in risky behaviors just to locate a possible food source that would most likely deplete in a short matter of time. Given the fact that the megalodon often traveled over vast distances, this led to high probabilities of winding up in areas that did not contain an adequate food source, and ultimately left the entire species incredibly vulnerable. These problems are only made worse when one takes into consideration how an environment can be easily changed by seasons, which would mean that the megalodon would be forced to travel greater distances, or be highly susceptible to starvation if any dramatic changes in climate happen. Given the creature's massive size and its constant need for an adequate amount of calories just to live, this led to the creature to ultimately become a species that suffered from a high rate of competition with both neighboring species in its own kind. Though many times in the animal kingdom, having a larger physique allows certain evolutionary advantages when it comes to the realm of competition, other times it can lead to a much higher resource scarcity of the species in question. The megalodon, due to its large size, was capable of eating a wider range of foods that included schools of fish, turtles, seals, and every now and then a lone whale. Due to its food supply being made up of many different marine animals, the megalodon was always competing with those animals' natural predators for food. This meant that their finely trimmed ecosystem could only support a lower population density of the megalodon, due to its constant competition with members of its own species. This translates into not only the megalodon being a mostly solitary marine animal, but a tremendously high risk in not finding a mate given their incredibly low population numbers. In conclusion, mainstream scientists completely debunk any claim involving a megalodon shark, saying that our current climate cannot support a shark the size of a megalodon. There's simply not enough food, and that if they were real there would be more than just a few scattered sightings. Some theorists, though, have suggested that these giants now live in deeper waters and only come out when they need to. Something to bear in mind, though, is that 95% of the ocean is still unexplored. So theorists say that until someone has explored every part of the ocean, we can't say they don't exist. So far, scientists have discovered over 242,500 marine species. However, it's estimated that every year over 2,000 new oceanic species are discovered. While people still report encountering giant sharks, stories of megalodon being alive will persist well into the future. So my question to you guys is, what do you make of these cases? And do you think the megalodon shark is still roaming our oceans? Our fascination with UFOs perhaps stems from us wanting to find life. Disagree that we're the only intelligent life in the universe. After all, scientists have come forward and said that within the Milky Way galaxy alone there's billions of planets, and within the universe there's billions of galaxies, meaning that there's trillions of planets just waiting to be discovered. With this amount of planets and the fact that our small solar system holds life, there's even many scientists that have got on board with the idea that life exists on other planets. With the universe being so massive, though, there's no way we'll be able to travel these vast distances anytime soon. But there are those that believe that intelligent life has come to us. This is based on the idea that advanced civilizations would have only had to start 10,000 years or 100,000 years before us, and they would be much more advanced. When you bear in mind how much the human race has achieved in the last 100 years alone, it's not impossible to think that within 100,000 years we will be a spacefaring species. As mentioned, though, there are those that think that an advanced race has already done this, and this is who is behind some of the UFO sightings that get reported from across our planet. It's no secret that officials have admitted that we're interested in these crafts, and this could be because they have the ability to easily outperform our tanks. For years, governments across the world have been investigating unidentified flying objects and spending hundreds of millions of dollars on classified projects to find out what they are and what they want. However, it seems they don't have their answers, whereas UFO programs are still active. UFO researchers have said that one of the best places to see these mysterious crafts isn't actually on Earth, but rather via the many satellites we have orbiting our planet. They give us an insight into what goes on around our planet, and every so often someone is able to capture something mysterious. One interesting discovery was made back in 2015, when UFO researchers immediately labeled this object as a UFO. Now, before we carry on, it's important to remember that a UFO is simply an object that cannot be identified at that moment in time. It's only been in recent years that they've been linked to alien life. The issue is, though, when people are finding strange objects near our sun and moon on a daily basis, you can see why people would want to question these things, especially when we're told that we don't have the technology to do this. As mentioned, this interesting object was discovered back in 2015 by Ufovny 2012, a UFO researcher who is well known in the field for detecting mysterious objects above our planet. This craft is of particular interest, though, as at first glance it appears to be firing some sort of beam. One UFO researcher stated the following: "Seeing these types of crafts around our sun isn't uncommon. However, seeing them amidst these types of beams isn't something you see very often. In fact, I've only seen one other craft do this, and it's anyone's guess as to what it is and why they do this. I've spoken to other UFO researchers that suggest the beams are energy beams, or that it has something to do with opening portals. It sounds like an out there theory, but people are just commenting on what they see, and this craft does look like it's firing out an energy beam." End quote. Interestingly, this wasn't just some glitch either. This mysterious object was observed close to our sun from October 8th, 2015 to November 9th, 2015. So what exactly are these objects, and why are so many people reporting these alleged UFOs near the sun? Some amateur researchers have tried to piece together what these objects could be, with other researchers saying that in some cases these objects are massive, being thousands of feet in diameter. From NASA's point of view, though, they state that what people are seeing is nothing more than space debris being picked up by the cameras, and that all of these alleged UFOs can be explained as debris or anomalies that happen during the processing. With one NASA researcher saying the following: "The majority of these alleged UFO sightings can be easily explained. One of the things that people see is space debris that's made its way in front of the cameras. When these pieces of debris are up close, it can look like an unidentified flying object. In reality, People were just seeing a common piece of space debris. End quote. Many people are not happy with this reply from the space agency and have even gone as far as saying this explanation is lazy and that they're not even looking into these reports. Theorists suggest that although some of these alleged UFOs can be put down to anomalies or space debris, many of them have been seen around the sun for several weeks and then suddenly shooting away at high speeds. As of today, many of these mysterious-looking objects are still being captured by the space agency, along with amateur astronomers. With space being so vast and home to an endless amount of planets, it's caused some to think outside of the box when it comes to life. It's those that believe we're alone in the universe, and that our planet came to be due to random events playing out. On the other hand, there's those that believe our galaxy isn't anything special, and that there's a huge amount of galaxies just like ours that harbor life. This is when people state that a civilization would have only had to have started 100,000 years before us for it to be much more advanced. It's impossible to say that other advanced civilizations are not scattered across the universe. One of the issues we're having at the moment, though, is trying to locate them. Discoveries and announcements being made in regards to UFOs every year. There's some that think in the near future we'll be told some massive news, and that will change our understanding of our place in the universe. With the government's recent announcements on UFOs and otherworldly crafts, this has only caused more excitement around this topic, as we might soon get told if we're truly alone in the universe. So what do you make of this mysterious object captured close to the sun? And what do you think it could be? Do you think it's a UFO firing some sort of energy beam? Or can this object be explained as space debris? The search for alien life is one that's fascinated many researchers, and news has just been announced that scientists have made a breakthrough. Scientists have just said that signs of alien life has been discovered on Venus. The researchers go on to detail that a rare molecule has been detected in the clouds of Venus, telling us that colonies of living microbes could be thriving and living in the planet's atmosphere. The surface of Venus is known to be too harsh to sustain life, or life as we know it, having a temperature exceeding over 460 degrees. Due to this, it's caused researchers to overlook Venus. However, they've now said they're looking towards the planet's atmosphere. It's here that the conditions are much more favorable for life. Professor Jane Greaves of Cardiff University made the incredible discovery of phosphine gas. These exist in the clouds, and it's interesting to note that this is a molecule which is produced on our planet. Professor Greaves said the following about the incredible discovery. This was an experiment made out of pure curiosity, really taking advantage of JCMT's powerful tech. I thought we'd just be able to rule out extreme scenarios like the clouds being stuffed full of organisms. When we got the first hints of phosphine in Venus spectrum, it was a shock. Through my whole career, I've been interested in the search for life elsewhere in the universe. So I'm just blown away that this is even possible. But yes, we are encouraging other people to tell us what we might have missed. Our paper and data are open access. This is how science works. Dr. Baines said the following about the interesting discovery. In principle, a more water-loving life could hide itself away inside a protective shell. Could be inside the sulfuric acid droplets. We are talking bacteria surrounding themselves by something tougher than Telvon and completely sealing themselves in. But then how do they eat? How do they exchange gases? It's a real paradox. Oxford University's Dr. Colin Wilson said this discovery is fascinating and will most likely bring more attention to Venus, with hopefully more tests being carried out in regards to these signals. He said the following, it's really exciting and will lead to new discoveries. Even if the original phosphine detection were to turn out to be a spectroscopic misinterpretation, which I don't think it will. I think life in Venus clouds is so unlikely that we'll find other chemical pathways of creating phosphine in the atmosphere, but we'll discover lots of interesting things about Venus in this search. It seems that at this moment in time it's still early days, and that more tests will need to be carried out in order to get to the bottom of this mystery. It seems, however, that 2020 is still full of surprises. As of today, various space agencies have done a great job at detecting possible locations where life could exist. One of these places is that of TRAPPIST-1 and the many exoplanets it holds. Discovered within the TRAPPIST-1 system that made headlines from all around the world, TRAPPIST-1d was one of the many exoplanets found orbiting a star very similar in heat and size to our own, that led many scientists to believe that many of the planets orbiting around the Sun to be Earth-like, and ideal for future colonization of our solar system. The most exciting prospect of this discovery was not only the planets, but rather the distance the system is from our own solar system, being only a mere 39.6 light-years away from us, making it an interstellar neighbor with a much easier point of access. In fact, previous efforts in developments of space technology, such as that of the Orion nuclear-powered spacecraft, could see the journey to TRAPPIST-1 system met in as little as one generation of passengers and accomplished in a short 60 years. This very well means that efforts could be started right now to begin interstellar colonization. With current space technologies, without any additional stress of developments already being performed. The TRAPPIST-1d planet in orbit around the Sun-like star of the TRAPPIST system also appears to be cooler than that of our own Earth and far richer in composition of precious metals, a rocky surface, a low gravity for takeoff, and an atmosphere filled with dense water vapor for colonization efforts. However, given the planet's size, mass, and density, is theorized to have a weak electromagnetic field, which would not help to shield colonization efforts from damaging cosmic radiation, which is also seen on our neighboring planet Mars. But even if the planet turns out to be incompatible with future colonization efforts, once the passengers arrive at their destination, it can be easily used for resources to build megastructure bases capable of supporting human life, and assist in the efforts of terraforming and colonizing the other neighboring planets nearby. Closest neighbor to the TRAPPIST-1d planet, TRAPPIST-1c is the single most best candidate for future human colonization efforts that requires next to no additional research developments in the realm of colonization. The short distance of the interstellar neighbor, along with all the resources that can be gathered by the neighboring planet, is only the first bullet point as to why TRAPPIST-1c is a prime candidate for colonization. Back in 2016, researchers have found the planet has a temperature that is very similar to Earth, with a maximum surface temperature of 140 degrees, a temperature seen in areas on Earth such as Death Valley. Additionally, TRAPPIST-1c has a gravitational force that is 97% equal to that of Earth's, making it habitable for long-term endeavors without risk to the health and wellness of colonizers, as well as a mass large enough to support a strong electromagnetic field that can shield colonizers from cosmic radiation. This makes it a prime environment worthy of colonization efforts, as the size, atmosphere, electromagnetic field, and mass of the planet seems to be an almost perfect mirroring of our very own planet. Recent research also believes the planet to have a rich atmosphere of water vapor that could potentially see the planet slightly cooled enough to have surface temperatures similar to Earth. As of right now, there's various places scattered across our universe that could hold life. Places like Enceladus are of interest, with researchers open to the idea of there being life currently on the Moon. One of the issues that scientists now face is trying to conduct further tests to back up their claims. It's certainly an exciting time for space exploration, and it seems every year scientists and researchers make incredible discoveries that gets us one step closer to answering the big question. Are we alone in the universe? So what do you make of these recent discoveries? And do you think life exists within the clouds of Venus? Or so what do you make of the many exoplanets that have been discovered close by? Do you think they could hold complex life? Mars is a planet that's of particular interest, and various space agencies have said they want to put humans on the red planet. They say this is doable, but they just need a little more time. In the meantime, studying this planet's environment is essential to giving us the best possible opportunity for colonization. The more we've studied Mars, the more we've learned about its various changes over the years. For example, many years ago scientists said that Mars would have been uninhabitable. But research has shown us that at one point in time Mars would have had conditions suitable for life. This is evident in water flows that can be seen on the surface of the red planet. Amateur researchers have said, though, that they think flowing water can be seen on the red planet. And this is when you add color to the photographs that get sent back by the rovers. They say that when you do this, Mars looks completely different, and you're even able to see things like animals. Now, before I carry on, it's important to note that NASA and other space agencies have said there's no evidence of life on Mars, and that's what people are seeing as pareidolia. Back on the 8th of September, an alleged anomaly was found by Scottsy Waring of UFO sightings, and they claimed this image could be proof of a top hand. They went on to explain that this could be proof of a time traveler that visited Mars in the past and accidentally dropped their hat while in the process. The researcher believes that if someone has enough time on their hands, they are able to find various anomalies sitting on the Martian terrain. There are many that have gone on record as saying that they think that Mars was once inhabited, and the proof they have is all the anomalies that can be found lying on the Martian surface. He went on to say the following about the discovery. I found a hat, a gentleman's top hat to be precise. The hat is sitting on its side and is partially buried under the Mars dirt. Maybe it's a sign someone from Earth once walked on Mars. A possibly abducted human, I guess. End quote. This isn't the first time that something of interest has been discovered on Mars. There's some that have claimed that giant pyramid-like structures can be found on the planet, and again, they use this as proof that at one point in time a civilization lived there. This then started a massive debate, with some arguing that more tests should be done on these types of structures, and that we should be sending rovers there to investigate further. While there are many people who remain skeptical about the fact that Mars was once inhabited in the distant past, and that this is just another rock formation on the red planet, there are others who believe that it's very possible that the red planet was once inhabited by intelligent beings in the past. This object in the photograph does appear to look like the Egyptian pyramids. Some have even said they can make out the signs. As of right now, NASA's stance on these images is that it's just people's eyes playing tricks on them, and that in reality there's nothing there. Interestingly, going back a few years ago, NASA made an incredible discovery in which the initial signs of life on Mars arose for NASA astrobiologists and research scientists back in 2004, and then again later confirmed back during the landing of the Martian probe in 2014. The private space agency originally saw signs of a methane plume ejecting from the surface of Mars, and began to quickly theorize its implications as an organic molecule, of which only finds natural formation via the creation of a variety of bacteria. After many sleepless nights, engineers of the space agency worked to send a Martian rover with the capability of testing the Martian surface for additional organic molecules. Interestingly, there's even been some individuals that have come forward and claimed to have visited the planet. Andrew Biago claims that he traveled back in time to meet with the dead United States president and discuss how America can be better. Andrew has said he's been transported into the past and future. He said he was only a kid when he was chosen from a gathering of skilled youngsters, and those individuals were to participate in a program that will see him meet previous and future beings, some of which were said to be from Mars. Biago said that the United States government came up with Project Pegasus, which was a covert activity between the years of 1962 to 1972. The program prompted the effective improvement of various technology, for example, teleportation, time travel, and holographic images. Biago claims that Pegasus was managed by both the CIA and DARPA. He also testified that the program was used in contacting previous United States presidents. Also, he said Pegasus transported him to Mars, where he had discussions with extraterrestrials. Biago said his first adventure transported him to the state capital of New Mexico. After that, he traveled back to Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address when he was still alive. He went to Washington during the Revolutionary War. He also saw Jesus one-on-one during his time on Earth, but what they discussed was not made known to the public. Moving away from time travel to the past, Biago claims he has done future trips too. Among the notable ones he has done was traveling to the year 2045, where he said he saw a structure made of emerald and a different type of steel. At this time he said this type of steel doesn't exist, and that it's a new type that gets discovered in the near future. Apart from being a time traveler, Biago is also a politician and has been trying to make his way into the White House. In the year 2016, during the political reigns, Biago didn't make it past the primaries. However, he has future information that at some point before the year 2028, he will either be chosen president or the vice president. He says the information has been revealed to him. Holding form in the 50 states of America, Biago complained of finance. To do that, according to him, would cost him nothing less than $5 million, which he doesn't have. People are looking forward to seeing if Basiego's claims of becoming president or vice president of America will come to pass. As of right now, though, NASA have come forward and said that these alleged anomalies are nothing more than rocks, and that certain rocks under the right conditions can take on the appearance of everyday objects, with the agency saying that in reality they are nothing and don't need to be researched any further. Others, though, believe that sometimes we are able to see remnants of a past civilization, and this can be done by patiently scanning the Martian surface. So what do you make of these claims that there's anomalies on Mars? And do you think there's any truth to them? For many years, humans have craved to know if there are any signs of alien life outside of our own planet. With governments keeping secrets, making us humans even more desperate to find out what they could be hiding. To the Stars Academy. You may have heard the name Tom DeLonge. That is because he's a renowned guitarist of popular rock band Blink-182. But his career didn't stop at the top of the music charts. He's the main contributor of the To the Stars Academy, which aims to explore the outer edges of aerospace science. The Academy brings together art, entertainment, science, and aerospace topics, inform the public of scientific phenomena, that is, things that the government and NASA alike have been keeping from us. Namely, the institution does research on UFOs and extraterrestrial life. Tom works alongside the To the Stars Academy founder Jim Semivane, who's a retired CIA intelligence officer. Semivane's credibility as an aerospace researcher and close confidant of the CIA gives the institution a headway as a leading investigative force for space exploration. Because the Academy isn't funded by the government and has far less resources than NASA or SpaceX, they tend to research space phenomena that's already been found, rather than developing the technology to explore space itself. If they were to pursue that path, it would cost millions of dollars and federal backing. However, Tom and the To the Stars Academy may have stumbled upon a space discovery that would open doors for the Academy. They've recovered a mysterious piece of metamaterial that's believed to have come from an unidentified flying object. The piece of alloy metal shows signs of advanced engineering that's never been seen on Earth, or at least hasn't been known by the public eye. The team compared the material to other metal materials already discovered on secretive military base, and couldn't find a match or any evidence this particular material was in the possession of American intelligence. To the Stars Academy, Steve Justice is working on verifying the authenticity of the material, which has proven to be a grueling process. The documentation and validity of the metal has to go through a chain of personnel before it can be considered to be truly authentic. However, Justice is confident the materials couldn't have been faked. This is because the manufacturing that would be necessary to create such a piece of metal is far too advanced for our known earthly engineers. The piece of metamaterial itself looks like a malleable, sparkly gray mold of dirt. It certainly contradicts Hollywood's portrayal of extraterrestrial objects. Typically, we aspire these things to be colorful, shiny, and technologically advanced. This goes to show that even different planets might not be as progressive as we thought, but it also might show that their organic materials transcend the limits of our own on Earth. Tom is undoubtedly excited about this discovery. He's been a long-time space enthusiast who wanted to research UFOs and extraterrestrial life as a side gig to his career as a prominent musician. Starting out, he worked alongside other space enthusiasts who didn't have science or aerospace credentials but a passion for space nonetheless. It wasn't until he met others that he could officially launch a legitimate academy. From that point on, the scientists, intelligence officers, and spacegoers created the To the Stars Academy, which will only continue to thrive under the trustworthy hand of America's top analysts. This metamaterial discovery will undoubtedly pave the way for many other discoveries made by the To the Stars Academy. The Pentagon claims they've retrieved extraterrestrial vehicles and materials. The Pentagon is notorious for being extremely secretive, even ominously so. Many Americans believe the Pentagon is an active part of popular conspiracy theories. This is perpetuated by its members' sworn secrecy. However, people have had enough of the Pentagon's isolation from the general public in the realm of space exploration. People want to know about UFOs, the presence of extraterrestrial life, and its potential threat to American citizens. It wasn't until recently that the Pentagon decided to oblige some of the public's demands for intel. Former astrophysicist for the Pentagon's UFO program and current defense contractor Eric Davis let the Department of Defense know what otherworldly vehicles have presented themselves on Earth. The vague description is intentional, because the Pentagon's UFO force simply doesn't know all the characteristics of these vehicles yet. However, to the common person, what Davis is explaining sounds a lot like a UFO or spaceship. The Pentagon has classified these vehicles as being extraterrestrial, because the technology, materials, and uses of it are something that couldn't have possibly been engineered on Earth yet. In other words, the scientists of the Pentagon have never seen anything like it. It's astounding they've chosen to reveal even this vague information with the general public. New UFO programs within the Pentagon have decided the public deserves some knowledge, that being about potential life forms or technology existing outside of our planet. U.S. intelligence is still concerned with the nature of these objects, of course. Part of the reason secrecy is so important when investigating new technology is for the sake of national defense. Because the vehicles approach Earth with no intended motive, we can't be sure if other life forms are simply trying to contact us, threaten us, or if the incident was just an event. The Pentagon is working towards investigating the material to determine the threat these could present. There's no telling how long the Pentagon and the Department of Defense will take to examine the materials in these unknown vehicles. Because this incident hasn't been reported until now, there seems to be no protocol for these investigative measures. Depending on their findings, government officials are concerned with how the public will react to the news of extraterrestrial visitors. Until then, the investigation is classified. Could there be life? Over 4,000 exoplanets discovered. It's no secret that our universe is exponentially large, larger than we as humans can even begin to comprehend. There are billions of galaxies in the universe, and even more planets. Most scientists believe that number could be in the trillions. So what's so significant about an exoplanet? An exoplanet is a unique kind of planet. Typically, when we think of a planet, we think of a standalone sphere that's orbited by moons. However, an exoplanet is actually a planet that orbits around a singular star instead of the other way around. The Earth and the other planets in our solar system aren't referred to as exoplanets. This is despite the fact they orbit around a singular star, the Sun. Instead, we use the term to describe other planets outside of our solar system that orbit around a singular star as well. Discovering these exoplanets is extremely important. The proximity from which the planet orbits around the star is cause for life potential on that exoplanet. If the planet orbits closely, the planet's surface might be too hot for life to exist, meaning there'd be no water and the harsh conditions would deter any cellular growth. However, if the exoplanet orbits too far from the star, it would be completely frozen and unable to inhabit any life forms. NASA scientists have developed a space probe known as Kepler, which floats around space searching for inhabitable exoplanets. Kepler detects the distance from an exoplanet to the star it's orbiting, the strength and brightness of the star, and the gravitational relationship between the two. This is then used to determine if it could inhabit life. Kepler's data is then returned to NASA scientists for them to determine if the distance, temperature, and reliability of the exoplanet's climate resembles that of Earth's. In the recent years, scientists have discovered a record-breaking 4,000 exoplanets. The potential for life increases substantially when more and more have been discovered. NASA has launched an exoplanet investigation program, which aims to discover undeniable evidence that life forms exist on other planets. However, NASA scientists are trying to win a competitive and complicated race to discover the first Earth-like climate in an exoplanet. They have a few obstacles in front of them. They need more advanced telescopes, a better understanding of the chemistry that initiates life, and ultimately decades of time for studying. NASA scientist and MIT graduate Sarah Seeger is actively looking for otherworldly chemical reactions that are similar to that on Earth. Namely, she's trying to detect the presence of carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, sulfur, phosphorus, and hydrogen. Not only this, but the chemicals have to be at a safe level for life conception. This is extremely difficult to detect when the scope of the exoplanets is about the size of a grain of salt. It's safe to say there's likely exponential amounts of exoplanets within our universe. There's a great deal of opportunity for life on many of these planets, however, it's just a matter of finding it. So what do you make of these extraterrestrial discoveries? Everyone dreams, even people that believe they never do. Whether or not we remember our dreams, we all have them for around 2 hours every night. The average person has 3 to 5 distinct dreams per night. These can last anywhere from a few seconds to up to 30 minutes. There are many theories as to what causes dreams and what they may mean. Recent research indicates that dreams help you process the information that you've learned throughout the day, as well as your emotions, including particularly powerful memories and feelings like fear and anxiety. Since the early 1900s, dream interpretation has been a popular branch of psychology and science thanks to the father of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud. Freud believed that dreams were manifestations of unconscious desires and anxieties. Furthermore, he believed that nearly every dream was related to personal emotions or childhood memories. His theory was so popular that his name is still well known today, even though many of his psychological claims have been discredited. Despite the fact that well over 100 years have passed, we really didn't know that much more about the meaning of dreams than we did in Freud's time. Have you seen this man? He's not someone you'd look at twice if you saw him in the street. Balding, with dark, heavy-set eyebrows, a mouth that seems to be stretched into a wide smirk most of the time. His eyes are dark and expressionless. His height, body, clothes are nondescript. No one mentions them. So why are we talking about this nameless man? Since 2006, he's appeared in thousands of people's dreams worldwide. The website first sprung up in 2008, titled Ever Dream This Man. It features a large black and white drawing. The subtext asks readers an important question. Is he familiar to you? The man himself has never been spotted in real life, yet he repeatedly appears as a sinister figure in dreams. According to the Ever Dream This Man website, the drawing itself was first done by a psychiatric patient in New York in 2006. She gave it to her doctor, explaining this figure seemed to be haunting her. He left her drawing on the table, and to his surprise, another patient recognized the man. Despite these two patients not knowing each other, they shared the same dream. The doctor decided to send the portrait to his colleagues, asking them to share them with their patients. Within a few months, four patients recognized the man, but were only able to identify him as this man, a frequent visitor to their dreams. Each time, this man was said to have a threatening aura. Sometimes he spoke, sometimes he didn't. Either way, the patients remembered his face, but little else. It's unknown how the sketch of this man came to be online. However, sources indicate the primary website describing the dream was first posted in 2008. Since then, at least 2,000 people have claimed that they've dreamed his face worldwide. Their stories vary. In some, the man stands in for the subject's father. In others, he's a lover, showering them with romantic gifts and sweeping them off their feet. Sometimes he follows the dreamer around a mall, or appears in their mirror instead of their own reflection. In one particularly frightening story, the man appears on a television screen. He then reaches out and slits the throat of the frightened dreamer in the room with him. Each story is different. The man is the only thing they have in common. In 2015, an Italian marketing genius named Andrea Nutella was claimed to have made up this man. Andrea had set about to create a global hoax, and this had worked. People still to this day have continued to come forward and share their stories of dreaming about this man. We may never know the true origins of the man who everyone dreams of. Is this something you dream of? Or was it made up by Andrea Nutella? Regardless of Andrea's role, this man continues to appear in dreams worldwide to this day, and the reason why remains a mystery. A toothless nightmare. You're eating dinner or breakfast or lunch. Everything is going fine, but suddenly, something feels wrong. You pause your chewing. What's that gust of air? You look down and gasp. There's a tooth in your food. A tooth that should have been in your mouth. Or maybe there's more than one. Or maybe your teeth are just missing. Whatever it is, you wake with a start. Your heart is racing and you have to run your tongue or your fingers over your teeth until you can get back to sleep. Up to 40% of people have dreamt of their teeth falling out to some capacity. Yet despite how common this dream is, psychologists are still not sure what causes it. That or why it's so unsettling to those who experience it. The internet is full of theories about what dreams of your teeth falling out might mean. Some articles claim it's about suffering a deep personal loss or the loss of a marriage or relationship. Other sources claim it's about religion and paranoia. Still, others call it a sign of undiagnosed anxiety. The most likely answer is there isn't one solution that applies to everybody. Harvard professor Deidre Barrett theorizes the dreams we have are reflective of each of our hopes and fears. She suggests that each person that dreams of their teeth falling out considers what their teeth mean to them. Are they important because they symbolize youth and health? Does your teeth falling out mean you're getting old? Teeth might show up in so many dreams because they're important to almost everyone, just in different ways. Of course, there might also be an explanation that's not psychological. Dreaming of teeth falling out might actually mean there's something wrong. According to a 2018 study, dreaming of teeth was often connected to discomfort in your jaw or teeth after waking up. Although the research is preliminary, anecdotal evidence collected by dream experts seems to confirm these results. One expert even shared she's seen these teeth falling out dreams in patients with no symptoms. But 4 to 6 months later, the patients experienced some kind of tooth or gum illness. Whether psychological or physical, it seems clear that tooth dreams are our body's way of telling us there's something wrong. We just might not know what yet. Sleep paralysis. Between 8 and 50% of people will experience this terrifying phenomenon at some point during their lives. 5% will even experience it more than once. Sleep paralysis overtakes you when you're in a state between sleep and wakefulness. A person is alert, but unable to move or speak. It's as if you're in sleep mode and your body knows that, but your brain is alert. And if sudden, unusual paralysis wasn't enough, sleep paralysis is often accompanied by a strong sense of fear and hallucinations. Most commonly, suppers have a strong sense that someone is in the room with them. The hallucinations experienced by suppers span a wide range of types, including auditory, visual, and tactile. Sleepers may hear humming, hissing, and buzzing, or even whispers and mildly inaudible voices. They feel like they're being dragged out of bed or pressed down upon by a heavy force. They see a terrifying, dark figure looming at the foot of the bed or lurking outside of the window. The hallucination is accompanied by a sense of fear and panic and can last up to several minutes. Sufferers have described it as akin to seeing a ghost or being haunted by a malevolent entity. Overall, the experience is terrifying. Even scarier, the physical causes of sleep paralysis aren't yet known. There are a few theories, including disrupted sleep cycles, overlap of the REM or rapid eye movement phase of deep sleep, and the waking stages of sleep may cause a disconnect in the brain. Even though the cause of sleep paralysis has not been fully discovered, the phenomenon is still used to try and explain many supernatural occurrences. For example, some researchers claim that sleep paralysis may cause an out-of-body hallucination, as well as the belief in a demonic or alien presence. Their theory is many alien abductions can be explained by cases of sleep paralysis. While this may certainly apply to some cases, it isn't a definite answer to the things that people experience in their sleep. The fact remains that sleep paralysis is a phenomenon that demands further study before it can be used as an explanation. Unusual happenings. It seems that, after all, there may still be some mystery in the world. Until science discovers exactly why and how we dream, we may never fully solve the mystery of why so many people seem to share the same dreams. So what do you make of these mysterious dreams? Have you had any of these dreams, and can you relate?